Loading. This is the Marketing Mavericks podcast, a fun place of conversation with business owners from different industries at all different stages. We're shining a spotlight on what works and what doesn't when it comes to getting their brand's messaging out in this cluttered social media world. We'll also touch on marketing hacks, trends, and of course, AI. I'm Andrea Chase, your host, and I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Andrea Chase, your host of this Marketing Mavericks podcast, and I'm so thrilled to be back today. We are lucky enough to have both Melissa Maltais and Melanie Bucar on the show, and it's extra special today because this is our very first time having two guests on the mic at once. Melissa's an entrepreneur and innovator with a passion for lifting up women in business. She loves using her creativity to empower others on their professional and entrepreneurial journeys. Her perfect day, starting with a morning dance party, balancing work between processes and communications, and winding down with family time. Home, community, and staying true to herself are at the heart of everything that she does. Melanie spent the majority of her career working as a family law clerk until she was lucky enough to become a mother in 2006 and again in 2008. She decided to stay home to raise her children, especially after her youngest was diagnosed with high-functioning autism. Now that her children are older, Mel has decided to pursue a career that she is passionate about. Who better to do that with than her sister, Melissa? Mel's talent for cultivating genuine relationships and connections is invaluable to the growth of the ConnectHERS Co, which is run by Mel and Mel. A massive warm welcome to both of you. How is everything going in your neck of the woods today, ladies?
We're good. It's so nice to meet you, Andrea.
It's so lovely to meet you both.
It's so great when I hear these bios because it feels like this out of body experience. And I'm like, oh, she's talking about us.
It is. It was, well, Melissa, great bio. I love that.
I was just thinking of yours too.
It is really unique, isn't it, when somebody's reading it to you about all these amazing accolades that you bring. And so we got to own that power. And I know that you ladies are all about connecting, obviously, and getting women into the spotlight. So let's dive into the ConnectHERS Co. I would love to hear a little bit more about the organization. What are you doing there and why did you, or how, I guess I'll say, did you get into this industry?
Sure. So I'll take the lead on that one. It seems I always I like telling this story. So, so it started back in 2022, actually. I was and still am working part-time for a not-for-profit organization, and I support women entrepreneurs as a business advisor. And a lot of the clients that I connect with and talk to would often share with me that they were having a really difficult time connecting with new audiences, or they were aspiring speakers, or they were wellness providers and they wanted to do retreat experiences, but they couldn't find those opportunities. And there came a moment when they started asking me if they can hire me as a consultant to specifically connect them with those types of opportunities. And at the time, I wasn't able to provide that type of support to them. But Melanie, she was on the lookout for new career opportunities. And so I sent her a bunch of messages late in the night. I said, I think I have a really good idea. How do you feel about honey?
Where the best ideas are born right in the middle of the night when you can't get back to sleep.
And it's really important to note that this is not the first time this has happened. Like, the ideas that come out of this girl, like, she genuinely is like the idea girl. So when I got those messages, that first round that came in, I thought, oh no, here she goes again. What is she thinking about?
Yeah, right. Wow.
Morning. Yeah. So anyway, carry on.
But obviously something stuck with this particular idea, this brainwave, right? There was something there.
Yes. There was something there. And we already had women who were lining up and willing to pay to have this service because essentially there really wasn't anybody out there. There's speaker bureaus out there, or there's PR agencies that could possibly help, but nothing really specifically for any type of audience growth opportunity, right? So we talked it over for a few months after that initial, here's a really cool idea. Let's kind of see what happens with this. And the conversations took months to be like, okay, well, how can we do this? How can we provide this type of connection service to these women in a way that's going to be accessible to as many women as possible, but also affordable, because not everyone is going to be able to afford, $1,500, $2,000 to hire a consultant to help work with them. So for a long time, it was really just, how are we going to do this? We know the why, but how? And then it was in the spring of 2023, we were sitting around having a glass of wine. And we're like, what would be really cool is if we had like a platform. So something similar to a job board, but instead of a job board, it would be an opportunity board. So say you're a podcast host and you're looking for women to connect with and to guest on your podcast. You could simply go post an opportunity listing and say, I'm looking to connect with these kind of women. And then they would automatically get matched with your listing. And then boom, you're connected with all these women. Women are connected with you, right?
Fantastic.
So, and we really loved that concept. And then so we started working with a web developer to see if we could create that platform. And then things kind of went aside from there for us.
Okay.
That's a polite way of saying it. Yes.
As they always do in that, that's par for the course, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Insert the word.
I know is that this is like, but yeah, I think what Mel likes to say, it's almost like a rite of passage, right? When things don't go the way you anticipate them going. So fast forward a year, we were getting ready to do a televised pitch to investors. And that's when we decided that this platform isn't working the way that we wanted to. So we're like, wow, now what do we do? Right. And that's when we came up with the idea of creating a community. So the business model, instead of the matchmaking platform, which apparently is a little bit more extensive than we were expecting it to be, not just like a normal website.
We had no idea. We're like, let's just do it. How hard could it be? It's really hard.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I can appreciate that.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, well, what if we did a community-based service? So we can bring all these women in and essentially give them a stage and highlight and feature them. And then what we do on the back end is we work to make the connections and bring in all of the opportunity providers into the community to connect with them. So that's how it all kind of started. And we just launched the community last month. So that's where we are now.
Yay! Big round of applause. Congratulations for getting there. And I think that so many things you touched on. I think you definitely are tapping into a market that is pretty open at this point in time. From a personal standpoint or professional standpoint, I've been there. So when I first connected with you, Melissa, I thought, oh my goodness, this is a service that I definitely would want to tap into and need, because I want more speaking opportunities. And let's be real, we want to get paid for them eventually, don't we? There's a lot of things you can do pro bono. And I think that that's a great way to get experience and to get exposure. But there comes a period of time where you go, okay, how can I actually monetize this? Who can I actually reach out to actually get some kind of compensation and to build up that portfolio? So on that side, I think there's absolutely a massive need for this. And I really appreciate you sharing really openly about the fact that when you had this great idea, it wasn't as tangible as maybe you had hoped it would be initially to build it out. So, coming from, I kind of fell into becoming a woman in tech by accident, and that's sort of another tale of a failed venture. But I learned so much from that experience about how much investment is really required to launch these kinds of things, right? Whether it's a platform like you're talking about, web interface or mobile application, people, I think, a lot of times don't realize how much it costs and how much work actually goes into it. And I would say secondary, finding the right personnel to build something like that. I think that is something that we need to be very open about with people out there, that tech startups or ventures like this, we don't see the first few years a lot of times of grinding away, right? We don't see what's going on behind the scenes, and people think, oh, wow, how difficult can it really be to create this community? Well, I'm sure you too, I could see your faces. It is super challenging. So how are you feeling where you're sitting today now, having gone through that process and having just recently launched, congratulations, the Count community? Could you share a little bit about how you're feeling and what the Count community is in relation to the ConnectHERS Co business?
Sure. So I think that we're feeling good right now. We're feeling great. We've put a lot of work into it. Melissa is really great at especially this back end stuff, the marketing, the social media, just taking the time to figure out how all of the back end platforms are working together, how to get them together, what we need to do, how we need to do it. She has got this vision, whereas I'm more front end, look at constantly reaching out to people, making these contacts and connections, and setting up all the meetings. And so it was difficult initially for me to figure out what my role was, because I didn't have any sense of where this was going or how we were going to even get there, especially after the platform idea kind of fizzled for a bit. It's still there, and we're still going to work towards it. Mm-hmm. It's just that right now, we didn't want to leave anybody hanging, because there were a lot of women who were interested and a lot of people who were, really supportive of what we wanted to do. So our Count community itself is, so Count stands for connecting opportunities by uniting networks together. That's how we came up with the Count community. So this community we put together so that we can, bring women in. And there's two different options. There's, of course, there's a free option, because that was really important to us, that we have women come in who can, join us without having to worry about paying this a monthly fee, especially if you're just starting out. You're looking for the exposure, not necessarily compensated, experiences. And if that happens, fantastic, even better for them. Right. And then you have the other piece, but we've itemized the Count community so that you have, if you're just looking for podcast guests, then you can go into this one area where you'll see the members who have, checked off those areas, or keynote speakers or coaches. We've also got, an opportunity for you to share anything that's actually going on. You may be a part of another event that you want to advertise and let people know. So there's various areas of this community, and Melissa tirelessly put this together. And she's, and as women are coming in, it's a lot for everybody kind of taking, because this is a relatively new community. It's called the Circle community. And but it fits all of our needs. You can message each other, you can collaborate, you can partner with other women. So that was really important to us, that everybody has an opportunity to meet each other and to make those connections along the way.
That's awesome. And I did join recently as well, so I need to get back in there, but I was so excited, to see all of these different categories that you shared. I think that that's great, and women can tap into it as much or as little as they're able to, and utilize these different spaces as much as they want to. So I think that that's really great. Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate that, just so we can kind of differentiate things. So you did, Mel, touch a bit on Melissa's role in marketing. So I guess the big question is, are you doing and curating your own marketing, or is that something that you're outsourcing?
Oh, we're doing it all DIY.
Well, good for you.
Until we can outsource it, but that day will come. But for now, we're still at the stage where, we are doing it ourselves. But it's funny, Andrea, because while we were talking about doing this business, we kind of stumbled across these connection strategies. And essentially what they are strategies that you can implement into your marketing that really revolve around making those connections with new audiences. So focusing on community building, collaborations and partnerships, cross-platform presence, and interactive experiences. So what we've been doing is we've been focusing our marketing on these 4 connection strategy pillars. So a lot of the things that we do in our strategizing is how can we tap into community building? How can we collaborate or partner with other businesses? How can we establish cross-platform presence? Or how can we provide interactive experiences for our audience? So everything that we do revolves around these 4 pillars. So it's a little bit of a different take on how we're doing our marketing. And well, we figure, if we're gonna encourage other women to incorporate these strategies themselves into their business, well, then we should probably do them ourselves.
Yes, that's exactly it, right? And that's really interesting. I haven't actually interviewed anybody yet who's kind of broken down their strategy like that. So I really appreciate that you shed light on those pillars that you're focused on. Can I specifically ask about the interactive experience pillar? She's like, oh no, don't ask that. You don't have to answer that. I'm just so curious. The curious marketing mind is wondering what that looks like. And I know that the journey is ever evolving. So there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just really curious if that's okay.
Yeah, so there's a few ways. So for instance, when we did our launch party, we did it virtually. So we streamed it through our partners media channel. They invited us to their studio. And what was really great about that is that we were able to engage live with the people commenting on our live streams. So we were able to have those interactive types of conversations, even though it was something that was virtual, right? Or even just in our community, we have a space designated for themed discussions. So this month we're talking about collaborations, and we're encouraging our members to engage in those conversations and to share their experiences and their insights or their goals or their challenges, and just any kind of opportunity where you can engage with your audience in that interactive type of capacity would fall within that category. And I think that there are a lot of ways that we can do that. If you are a wellness provider, for instance, you can go and provide experiences, either maybe at a retreat or even connecting with an employer and providing team appreciation experiences. Again, it's all about that engagement, whether it's virtual or in person. You just have to think a little bit outside of the box, whether what it is that you're doing and how you can deliver it.
Yeah. That was beautifully said. Thank you. That did shed light to me. And I love the fact that you were able to reach people probably from across the country, I'm assuming, from your Northern Ontario hub spot there, Timmins, Ontario, if I stand corrected, shout out. And, yeah, so that I think that that's a beautiful way to keep that interactive aspect going. And I think it will have, hopefully, and no doubt, a trickle down effect moving forward to help you folks grow the community and for people to make connections, right? Tagging and, connecting people virtually can have really great results. And I think we all can agree on that. So it kind of brings me to the question about your target audience. So we're talking obviously about women in business. Are you looking to target women in any industry, or are we industry agnostic? Are you looking at women just in, this part of the country, or are you federally focused?
No, we're looking, we have so many different backgrounds of some of the women that have joined us. We have executive coaches that have just left the corporate office after 25 years. We've, had discussions with women in mining, women in trades. We have healthcare industry, authors. So I think we're in a time where everybody has a story of some sort. And I think women are getting more and more comfortable talking about their story or sharing their story, they realized how helpful it is to other women, but they're also using that to propel them forward with whatever their passion is. And I find that we're happy to help, any women, anybody who comes to us and is looking for a new opportunity. Melissa and I have gone through some of the founding membership applications, and at first glance, some of them we were trying to figure out, how can we help this person, but we always fall back to the same starting point, is that this is somebody who's looking for exposure and audience growth, and it may not seem like it's the most popular choice, but there will be somebody out there who's going to relate to what this woman has to say. And I think the other important piece to that is that, like age demographics for us is around the 35 to 50 mark.
Okay.
We're finding a lot of women who are, having this side hustle that they've been trying to get off the ground. They still have a full-time job. They have a family. They have a husband. They're doing everything else and still trying to get this business off the ground. And they have amazing stories as well. And they're just trying to get it up and running. So we find there's a lot of women who are they're tired of what they've been doing up until now. And they really want to get out there and do what they're actually passionate about. The other side of it as well is that demographically, yes, it's all women, which is wonderful because this is what we're passionate about. We want to help, but we also we recognize that businesses and organizations, they have a need to hear these stories, and they always have the events. So we're really, we're not closing any doors to any kind of business or whatever industry it may be, because we're learning that so many industries are always having events and conferences, and they bring in a lot of people. So we might as well introduce them to these women who haven't had a chance to tell their story yet. So that's kind of our focus. Yeah.
Amazing. I think that that's a beautiful thing, because like we've touched on, there's so many communities out there, and no disrespect to any organization that is trying to get visibility for women in business. Sure. However, some circles that we might find ourselves in, depending where you're sitting or the work that you do, I just have experienced a lot of heavily coach dominated spaces, if I could say it that way. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of coaches that need visibility, but I love that you said, there were women in mining that you had applications come through the door with. I think that's incredible. And I think that we do need to promote the trades for women more in general. So if you ladies are having the mission to just keep that open as well in the corporate space, I think you're just looking to soar higher beyond what you ever could imagine. And I'm really excited for both of you to watch this journey and hopefully be a part of it. I would love to be able to support you both if there's anything that I can do. So you did touch, Mel, on storytelling, which obviously is a huge part of probably the mission behind what the ConnectHERS Co is doing. So do you have any advice or words of wisdom for people that want to maybe use their voice more and want to have a compelling brand narrative, but they don't really know where to start? Any tips for those people?
What do you think, Melissa?
So do you want me to do it? We should. Right now. Yeah, so we really had a hard time with figuring out how to share our story. So while I've been doing what I've been doing for some time, I'm a little bit more comfortable being on a stage or in front of the camera, but Melanie was not. And I really wanted to respect her with that as much as I could and provide her with the time to kind of acclimatize really to it. And we went to a really interesting conference retreat kind of thing in Toronto back in the spring. And there was a speaker there named Jake Carls. And what's the name of his business again? I always forget.
He has a chocolate company called Midday Squares.
Okay.
And it's a family-run business. So it's him, his sister, and brother-in-law. So it's just three of them. And this guy just blew it out of the water for us, right, Melissa? Like, it was like he just pumped us up. Like, it was incredible. This just, yeah, he's Canadian. He's from Montreal. I think he's from Montreal, but man, like, we left there and it was just something very, very different, right? I think, like, do you feel that, Melissa? You feel like we left and it got us?
Yeah, it really shifted us. And his conversation that day was all just really about being authentic and being yourself. So, he was in a similar boat where his sister brought him in because he was the one who was comfortable in front of the camera and doing all of the fun, silly things, right? And really the big takeaway was just be ourselves, just share the story. And it doesn't matter what that story is. It doesn't, not everything has to be prompted out, or it has to be rehearsed, or you know what I mean? And so we really took that advice to heart. And once we started to get ready to be more present on socials, it was easier for us to start to share some of our personal story and our personal journey in entrepreneurship, and starting the ConnectHERS Co. and sharing those relatable moments, when your website that you've been working on for a year falls through, or you go to incorporate and find out that your business name is already incorporated, and then you got to do your whole sister over branding and all the things, right? But we took those as opportunities to share the journey, because it is an experience that a lot of us have when we go out to start a business. So our suggestion from the amazing Jay Carls: be yourself, be authentic. Don't feel like you have to be like everybody else, doing the same thing, making the same type of content, saying the same things, or rehearsing and just let it come naturally and let it be a reflection of you. And from that, what we've discovered, the best way for us to show up and be visible and to share our story is doing it together. So we focus on opportunities where we can do that. So we go live on Fridays and we have just a little conversations with the two of us, with our community members, and a lot of the projects that we're working on is going to be very similar to that, where we're just being there together, sharing, talking, and having conversations instead of just selling.
I think that's great.
If I can add to that, I think as somebody who wasn't really comfortable being out there and, having that story, worried about judgment, right, from others, especially those who may know us. It's almost worse when people know you and you're actually putting out the truth, right? And so I found that very daunting, and I wasn't quite ready to do that. But I feel that, we've been getting closer and closer, and I think now Melissa just throws me in and says, "Hey, by the way, we're doing this at 1 go."
You don't have time to think about it or to say no, you're doing it.
Yep. But you know what? Then I don't overthink it, and I'm realizing that I don't need to sit here having everything structured and written out. It really is like what Melissa is saying. I was worried at the launch. What if I forget something? What if I couldn't see because I didn't have my glasses on? I couldn't, right? Like all these little things that are going through my mind. But then once it started, it wasn't an issue. Everything just kind of flows. We know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about. We've got a very good dynamic and a very good relationship. We're very fortunate that we're just, we're best friends, we're sisters, we're co-founders, but we always say we're sisters first. So that, that's our priority. And we said that right from the beginning. This is always about us, and everything else will fall into place. And that's what we've been doing.
Thank you both. That was beautifully said. And I didn't really ask it point blank about advice per se, but you actually both indirectly or directly gave the audience some advice. So I am very enthralled with this conversation. You both, like I said before, have an amazing energy. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today, but I want to give you the opportunity. Any last pieces of advice or just something fun that you want to share with the audience before we close it out?
I think if you have an idea for a business and you're feeling a little intimidated, or you're not too sure, what that process is, or if you have the strength or the courage to do it, just go for it. We think that, every time an opportunity knocks, it's always worth exploring because you really don't know where it's going to take you. We didn't realize or have any idea that this is where we were going to be 2 years from that first time I sent her all of those messages. And I'm so grateful for all of the experiences that we've had in the last 2 years. The good ones, the bad ones, everything in between. We wouldn't be where we are without those experiences or without the people that we've connected to. So that would be our recommendation is just, that's our advice, I guess. It's just be strong and just be brave and share your story. Everybody has, a beautiful story to share. And, we all have passions and talents and expertise that deserve to be seen and heard. And if you're looking for some support with that, then come on over to the ConnectHERS Co. and let's chat some more.
Yeah.
Love
Well,
it.
good job, Liz. Huh?
Yay. I definitely resonated with that. And it's something that I always say in some of the talks I've given is, you never know where a simple hello could lead, and you never know where a venture or a seed of an idea could lead. And you don't want it. The worst that's going to happen is that somebody's going to say no or that it didn't work out. But do you really want to look back and say, I wish I did, I could have, I should have? Probably not. So I think that was a great way to end this. Thank you, Mel and Mel, for your beautiful, amazing energy. I wish you all the very best with your community, and I definitely will be talking to you soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.